All right, so welcome everybody. I am Ashley, and this is the Dog Dialectic Podcast. Tonight, I am joined, as always, with our co host, Kelly Ortega. And for a special treat for you, we have our first special guest. We have Scott Tarpley. Am I saying that correctly?
That's it. You got it.
Perfect. And Scott is here to tell us a little bit about his dog training business, where he started, how he got to where he is, and everything in between. So, to get started, Scott, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I moved down to North Carolina from New York about 4 years ago to start this. Before that, I was a rescue medic for about 20 years, where I pretty much did anything and everything you can imagine. I climbed, the ladder. I was a flight medic and a tactical medic. So I was attached to SWAT teams and other things like that, which is really how I kind of came into dogs. Each teams have dogs attached to them and they're not really full-time. So there's a lot of interdepartmental training and a lot of things that go on. And then I got kind of really close with one of the guys there who I'm still close with today and just fell in love with his shepherd and got my own and started training it. And then got another one, bred a litter, and they were monsters. And then just kind of on and on and on. And it just, that's the short version. We could dive in more, but it's what got me here today.
Awesome. Oh, that's really cool. So, tell me a little bit more about what you were doing before and kind of where you decided to transition from what you were doing then to when you wanted to kind of start your business.
So I started the business about 2010. That's when I got my first dog and started training them and realized that this could be kind of a thing. Like when you're in service, whether you're cop or paramedic or fireman or anything like that, I really feel that somebody gave me the advice that you always got to have a retirement plan, because what are you going to do when you retire? Because most of the pensions for that type of stuff, when you get out at 20 years, it's not enough to survive on it, and especially in New York. So, I started thinking that this could be a retirement thing and started going. And about that same time, or maybe it was just a hair before that, we had a structure fire. We were working and we were on the roof, and the whole thing collapsed, and we fell down through the second story, and I messed my back up pretty bad, and another guy broke his ankle and leg. He never came back, and another guy was okay. But at that time, we were kind of told to muscle through a lot of things. So I kept working and really got out of the fire side. Got more into rescue medic stuff, became a flight medic, worked with couple private agencies as well as the state police for that. Then even did a fixed wing flight program. It's like they'll go and pick you up from all parts of the world. It's like a little ICU and a Learjet. So that was a cool experience.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I got attached to the SWAT team, started working with that, like I said, and kind of figured out that this is the direction that I wanted to go. And as time progressed through about 2017 or 18, and another incident that kind of happened, I just knew I had to get out. It really is sad to say, but at that time, 17 years in, I got to see a real wide variety of from where we started and how people loved us. And it was just after 9/11. The World Trade Centers was actually one of my first things that I did. So I was down there for the first 3 days. So to go from that and where we were 17 years later, where everybody just hated us. It didn't matter if you showed up in a uniform and lights and sirens. It's like you were guaranteed to be 50% the enemy. And it's I just hated it. And so I took a federal job at West Point. I did all their American Heart Association stuff. And then I dealt with teaching the cadets in their first initial combat medicine stuff and things like that. So I did that for about a year until we found this place. It was actually my wife, who's now my ex-wife, unfortunately. She found it and kind of came up with the idea to move, and kind of cashed in everything I could at the time. And we sold the house and got a big chunk from that. So we were able to buy this property, which is think it's about 7,000 square feet or just over 7,000 square feet facility sitting on over 8 acres. Um,
Nice.
yeah, it's all clear. So it worked out well. Um,
So did you move down here before you had established the beginnings of your business, or did you kind of already have the framework in place and then you just needed the property? How'd that go?
yeah, so good question. So in New York, started to develop this because that's where I thought we were going to be because my wife was from there and I moved around a bit, but she was always from there, grew up in the same house type thing forever. And I never even dreamed she would move. So we had bought a fixer-upper property with about 5 acres and it had an old horse barn that I renovated over a couple of years and turned it into a dog kennel. Um, Went through the process with the town, which became a huge fight. It took us 9 months and thousands of dollars of fighting the town, even though it was an agricultural town and it was zoned properly for the things that we needed, a couple tweaks here and there. But me and the building inspector had fights and it was just, it wasn't good. So by the time we got the kennel permit, um, the next month or the month after, they changed all the rules at a special meeting. So now where you had to have 5 acres, now you had to have 10 acres. And it's like, so by the time we went back to renew the stuff, it wasn't going to happen.
So they
So
required you to have 10 acres in order to run a kennel?
yeah, first it was 5 acres and the building had to be 100 feet from the property,
Wow.
which our building was 108 feet and we had like 4.8 acres. So we had to get a variance, which worked. But then they changed it. You had to have 10 acres and the building had to be 300 feet from the property line.
Oh my God.
Just yeah. So just I don't know where you guys are from, but just New York and up there is a different world. Coming down here, everything's so lax
Yep.
and neighbors are just kind of doing whatever they want. Right now we're having a big coyote problem. I've seen 25 in the last 10 days, probably because
Ooh.
the guy a little down the road has like 100 acres and he's cutting all the trees down. He's treeing it. So in New York, that would never happen. Somebody would be in an uproar and there'd be some permit for it and
Oh
it'd be
yeah.
over with. So, but that's what I liked about this. I didn't want to go through the trouble anymore. Like I said, I knew it was a retirement gig, even though now I work probably 3 times harder than I ever did.
Yep.
um, so we needed to buy something that was established, something that they couldn't come back and say no, like we say it was always here. So this was a kennel for 20 years. Over the last multiple years, it was very underperforming. Um, I think the last 3 years they averaged about 66,000, which it takes about 75,000 to even keep the lights on. So they were in trouble. They sold the property. We got a decent deal on it, made a deal, and just literally packed up and moved everything. Sold my motorcycle, my four-wheeler, just started selling things left and right, and moved down here with one truckload and 4 dogs, and
Nice.
yeah, just ran.
So your business is called the Next Level Kennels. What made you decide on that name for your business?
So, so I've always really been into cars. So growing up, we had a custom car club that we all kind of formed and worked, and it was the Next Level Custom Cars. A friend of ours named Chris had passed away in a car accident.
Oh wow.
Nothing tragic, just coming home from the diner at like midnight, and something happened, and he's no longer with us. So the group kind of fell apart. And it's funny that you said that. That I just found the T-shirt in my closet the other day, which I refused to throw away. So this just kind of carried on, and I'm getting choked up, but it's it was something that I wanted to do. And when I started in 2010, it just worked and it flowed, and it was Next Level Kennels. And even my ex had fought me on the name because she's like, everybody's going to think you're running a kennel. I said, we will. I said, I'm planning for the future. Like this is what I want to do. Like, and we got really well known for breeding for a while. We had, I don't know, a dozen litters or so, and they were all phenomenal. We had several dogs on the New York State Police, a couple police dogs, other places. So we got a good reputation for that. And that's how it kind of flowed and kept going. And
Nice.
along with training my other dog with my friend from the police department. So that's kind of what got us here. But that's what settled on the name, and it just stuck. Like I never wanted anything else. There was never any other one. At the time, I looked up to see if there were many other ones. And now there's a couple other ones with similar names, but it's still pretty unique, at least.
Oh yeah. Did you trademark it?
We've done a bunch of stuff, especially lately, of going through stuff. This is our first year of, we can go through the business elevations, but I have an attorney now and an accountant and a whole bunch of people that text me that I don't want to talk to on a
Oh
daily
yeah.
basis. That I'm like, I just pretend like I didn't get it. My reads aren't on or anything. I'm like, they don't know I got it. So they're like, oh, what happened?
So when you say people text you that you don't want to talk to, you're talking about like your business associates that you need.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's either a lawyer's got a question or the accountant needs something, and that's just not what I ever wanted to deal with.
Yeah. I didn't want
Um,
people to think that your clients are texting and you're like, no, I don't want to talk
no,
to
no,
you.
those are the ones we get back to. Those are the
Yeah.
ones that come back with this. I mean, we've all been there. The phone
Hmm.
might get a weird look, but text back a little nicer than that.
Yep.
But we have a thing with our clients that we set up through Google Chats. So
Okay.
that's what we use pretty much exclusively for all of our training stuff. When they come here day one, our trainer Sam, myself, whatever, we'll set them up with that with an initial picture, and that's through Google Photos. Sorry, not Google Chats, Google Photos. That's where all the pictures, videos, texting, all that stuff will go through. So you don't really have to exchange numbers with people and things like that because you know
Yeah.
clients can be, you know, I don't need to know that your dog hasn't pooped all day at 1 in the morning. Like, what do I do? It's like
Oh my
so.
God, yes. We get that often. So,
Yeah.
but
So we
thankfully
still have
we're
this.
we're so small so that it's like once in a great while. Well, I think once we're getting as many clients as I'm sure you have, it gets to be a bit cumbersome.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking over the course of 10 years, you're talking thousands at this point.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just training ones. Now we have, we can get into that, the evolution of things. Now we have a doggy daycare, grooming, mobile grooming, training, and then we have our special operations group that
Okay.
does things as well. So,
I want to get into all of that. So before we get there, let's take a little step backwards. So tell me a little bit about starting your business and what it was like for you kind of taking that leap into business ownership. Because like you said, when you moved down here, you sold a whole bunch of stuff and you just kind of dove right in. So tell me
oh
like
yeah.
what was going through your mind, what was the process, and all of that.
I did a little bit of research and going back into, so throughout everything, um, I have a business degree, a degree in emergency management, specializing in paramedicine, and then I was going for my nursing degree too because I wanted to be a flight nurse. Then I ended up being a flight medic, and that was just as cool. So,
Nice.
um, it finally to a point I was able to put that to work, and I did a lot of research into the economic decline in like 2007, 2008, and I think dog businesses were like the third number three, ranked number three to not really be affected, for lack of better terms. So, whether you still might take a trip to Florida, but you're not taking a trip to Paris. So it doesn't matter where you go, the dog's still got to get boarded for 7 days. Um, and then so coming up through 2010 to 2019, we're breeding and doing some training and doing some stuff. And I got in with a friend doing explosive dog work in New York City. So I did that part time as well. And then just like I said, I'd got a light bulb kind of hit when I was working as a street medic and a chief medic, that I just didn't want to work for doing this anymore. So I took the federal job, and then that was just a whole different thing. And that probably if I did that for the first 20 years, it would have been okay, but I just didn't want to do that either. So it was a big leap. It was a leap of faith, and I tend to do that. I tend to do things that I know are going to work because I'll put the work in.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, when my wife was here for that first year, she did a lot too, but this just wasn't for her. So she went back home. Like I said, she'd lived in the same house forever. So it was just me. And um, I had a little bit of help, people here and there doing things. And I had some people, a friend of mine, Patty, come up from South Carolina, and she helped. And a friend that came down from Delaware, he helped. And, Dan came out from Texas. He helped, and through that, you just kind of learned um, where it was going to be. So there was really no, um, like I said, for years I knew this is the direction we wanted to go. I wanted to go, I should say, and doing it in New York just became evident that it wasn't going to happen because we moved to the most agricultural town you could move to, who literally had lines in their town code that for kennels and how to do things, and everything up there is a rule. Really, we went for the kennel permit initially because you had to have a kennel permit if you had more than 4 dogs.
Yep.
So I had 4. So I was like, well, if we do anything else, I was like, I'm just getting ahead of the ball here.
Mm-hmm.
And just all the fighting there, I said, we got to get out of here. New York's crazy. Like we
Yeah.
can't do, and it's gotten worse. I'm like,
It's the whole North, man. I was looking at moving up to New England, Massachusetts, New
oh, it's
Hampshire,
even
Vermont.
worse.
Oh, yeah. It was absolutely impossible because I was trying to find a place where I could reasonably have a dog training business or just own the 7 dogs that I have, which
Yes.
just that in of itself was almost unfeasible in New England. So,
I looked in Vermont initially, and we went up and looked at the place, and it was almost doable, but it was so remote, and what was we just didn't think it was really going to work. And then we tried in Pennsylvania for I feel like it was like 6 months. We tried to buy a place in Pennsylvania, which was again a place that's just underperforming, underrunning, and it's just there was a great vision for the place, but we couldn't get a bank to lend on it.
mhm.
A friend of mine who's in sport, I don't know what he's in now, PSA or some sort of dog sports. He does some things, and he's a vice president of a mortgage company, and he couldn't even get us a mortgage on it.
Oh, wow.
He said the banks have flat out told us that they won't lend on a dog kennel because it's too risky. Because if we bounce and we leave, what are they going to do with it? They can't turn it into anything. The property's useless. So
Yep.
this place that we found the guy owned, and it's not to get too much into it, but it's owner financed, so he's
Nice.
the bank, and he knew too that he couldn't sell to anybody else, and he knew he was going to lose it altogether if he didn't do something. So he owned it outright, owned the property, and
Honestly,
you know,
that's so beneficial. Like, there's been so many huge transactions I've done with people where I'm like, would you be interested in owner financing? Because you get all the benefit. And most of the time, they don't want to do it. They just
yeah,
want the flat amount upright. I'm like, you don't want to earn interest. You don't want a consistent income from this. Okay. But man, that's
yeah.
awesome that you were able to get that. So now you have several locations now. So from kind of where you started to then deciding to expand, how many locations do you have, and kind of how did you decide to, do that where you got to this magnitude? It looks like a pretty
Yeah.
big operation at this point. So what was that
It,
like?
it feels bigger some days. Um, so we have. I talked to coming out of COVID, and that was so hard to get through because that's right when my wife left and the business was failing,
Oh,
and yeah, I mean it went because nobody was boarding it, and then the bank
really?
account just dwindled. Yeah, because nobody went anywhere,
Huh.
and they weren't allowed to go anywhere really. So um, being in emergency management, initially I kind of seen where it was going, and we applied through the state here to stay open. Like they couldn't shut us down for any reason, but we didn't have anything going on. I mean, weeks and weeks and weeks we wouldn't see a dog. Um,
Wow.
so the bank account got down to like $300, and I called my ex, and I'm like, it's over. Like I don't even know what to do. I'm gonna take the RV and I'm gonna go live up at my friend Eric's house in Ohio, Eric Stambro, and I talked to him, and then a grant through the Chamber of Commerce came through, and that got a month, and then training dogs came through, and that got another month, and then July of 20 hit, and just the floodgates opened.
Hmm.
Like July 4th of 20, we had 80 something dogs here.
Dude,
So,
we were so busy in 2020. So we started just before the pandemic hit. And, we started it with high hopes and big hearts. And then all of a sudden, COVID happened, and
whoop,
we're like,
yeah,
oh crap. But we weren't really doing any boarding. We were just doing board and train, day training.
yep,
We were doing all training. And so with all the COVID puppies, and everyone being at home and their dogs annoying the crap out of them, we had a huge influx. So it was really like, it was surprising to hear you say that you were slow, but if you were banking a lot on that boarding, I could definitely
Yeah,
see
that's
how
where it
that would
came
be
from.
challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, the business was boarding and the training and stuff was just me at the time. So it was and then my ex was gone and then I had, only one person was able to help and it was just a shit show. Like it was bad. And that leads into kind of the expansions because coming out of it, I told as many people as I cared about in the dog world who went out and did the same thing you did. I looked at them and I said, "You're not going to survive." And they looked at me like, no way, man. I'm doing 12 dogs a month. You can't stop me. I'm bulletproof. I said, it's not going to last. I said, these pandemic puppies are going to, and that name wasn't even coined at that time. I'm like, all these dogs, you're getting this influx of dogs isn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to level back out to where you were. But the problem is now there was 4 of you. Now there's 40 of you.
Yep.
So it's 10 dogs between 40 people isn't going to work. I said, you have to get together and you have to form a conglomerate and you have to be I used to tell a ton of people that you have to fly under one flag, and that's the way it needs to be. And a lot of the stuff, a guy I admire really, really well, Aaron Taylor out of Ridgeside, he kind of did the same thing, and that's what a lot of the stuff I model is after. Is I went after and I talked to a lot of people, and that's why we have. It looks like we have a lot more locations than we have, but those are all just trainers that we'll use in certain areas and we contract with. So we have that outreach of people and not just in this area. I can pretty happily say at this point, I know somebody in every state.
Mm-hmm.
So we can do something like that. In terms of physical locations, we had 3, now we have 2. We did a something in the Nashville area that didn't work out. So after that, I decided that I didn't really want to do that. I didn't want people to exclusively have use of our name and what we were doing because I've seen kind of how badly it could have got trashed. Like it didn't get damaged, but it was close. It was bad. Like
Yeah.
that deal broke apart at the right time. So we opened another location in Oxford, which is about 30 minutes from our main facility. It's an 8,000 square foot storefront in a strip mall that was kind of run down, and we've really boosted the whole thing. You can go on any of our social media stuff and see pictures of the front of it. And I mean, there's thousands and tens of thousands of dollars in the front of that store because I knew that it just had to pop. And so that's our doggy daycare, grooming. We do day training out of there. I feel like I'm missing something. There's always something else. So Maddie runs that facility for us, and she does phenomenal. So that's our second physical location. They're about 30 minutes apart, so it's a good stretch. We get a lot of
Nice.
boarding still from there, and the grooming and stuff. It's been hard hiring groomers. It's been hard hiring anybody really,
Oh
but
yeah.
that's the biggest thing. Nobody wants to work. It's like they think they can just sit around and I look at some of the applications that come through and they want $20-$25 an hour, and
Yep.
I'm like, it's a receptionist. Like you can't.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
not
man.
even.
I had when we had that influx of COVID puppies and we were having so many dogs, I had a facility and I had a staff of like a dozen people, give or take. So I had my trainers and then we had training assistants who were responsible for like cleaning and helping the trainers and doing essentially non-training stuff, potting the dogs at night, stuff like that. And I think I set myself up for failure with that one because my trainers got so spoiled that they didn't have to clean kennels when a dog would
Yeah.
poop or something, that when we had to downsize and they were now expected to clean poopy kennels, they're like, I don't get paid enough for this. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is part of being a trainer. Like, I am the owner of the business and I still clean poopy kennels. Like, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, I say that all the time. We run with kind of a skeleton crew. There's just enough. So if somebody calls out or something, I'm the one that has to do it and deal with it.
Yep.
But they're also really, really, the core group I have is really amazing. Like I just had my first back surgery, was ultimately from that fire and collapsing through
Oh,
the
wow.
roof. But I put it off as long as I could, but getting yanked around by leashes and stuff just wasn't good anymore.
Oh yeah. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about your special operations side of things as well. Do you do like decoying and helper work too?
I did, yeah.
I can
I
imagine
kind
that
of,
puts a lot of wear and tear on you as well.
yeah. I did. I've only taken a bite from one dog over the past year, and that was they had to. I was like on one knee, and they had to kind of like help me up and take the coat off because he wasn't the best dog at targeting and stuff. So I had to really work him, and it wasn't fun.
Yeah,
So,
no.
but we have all the stuff here. We have every bite thing imaginable. We have a great table that was made by my friend Nick Ronzo up in Delaware.
Nice.
Um, so we have all
So
the
wait,
stuff
you have a
here.
table that was built with, did he build it in Delaware and then send it to you?
Yeah, he sent a bunch all over the place. If you're really into this stuff, you got to check this out. It's
Yep.
metal frame, great stuff, but the whole top comes off and it can go on the ground, so you can work legs on a. It's like, but like they're still on the table, and you're doing legs, you're
Nice.
doing all that stuff. So that's how we were able to get it back down. My trainer was up in oh, she was actually in Delaware, and I kind of arranged it all at the same time. She had a dog that she was taking back that we had got for training, and she was in my van anyway. So they took it apart and flipped it up, and they got it in there somehow. So
Man, that's
it was like,
awesome.
yeah, this thing is cool. I think I'm pretty sure he's still making it. He started as a welder or body guy. I mean, now he's a trooper, he's a canine trooper out of Delaware. So
Nice.
like I said, everybody has to have a retirement gig. In
Yeah.
service, you have to have a side hustle if you wanna make it.
Well, honestly, we've been pretty slow recently, which is fine for me. I was in the military and now I get 100% disability. So if I'm slow, I don't really feel it too
Right.
much. But I've had all this free time. I was thinking about just building my own tables. So
You can. My first one was built, but I mean, this one, I don't know what he charges for them these days, but I mean, well worth it. It's
yeah.
so worth it. And that's like you just talked about, everybody's slowed down with the training now, besides
Hmm.
just being coming into that slow season, November, December, January. It's cut way down. And I'm watching these, and I take no joy in it, but I'm watching these people who just kind of, before when we talked about the conglomerates, let's just get 10 great trainers together and we'll just rule the nation. Um, and barely anybody wanted to do it. They couldn't see it. Like with moving down here, sometimes I get these visions of things and how they can be and how they can work out ahead of time. And for no reason, I'm not gifted by any means, but just through experience, I can see kind of where things are going. And I'm watching some of these ones who went out there and they did it, man. They got big. And I'm watching them lay people off.
Hmm.
They built buildings in the back of their property that now they're not even using for it anymore. They're selling all these vans that they bought. It's collapsing, and I hate to see them do it. And I've gotten phone calls recently. Hey, you got any dogs you can contract out or this or that? And I'm like, no, not really.
Yep.
We did it too. We went from like 18 dogs to 6 or whatever it
Yeah.
is. This month I think we have 4 or something like that. So it just flows. But that's why I keep Sam's my trainer. I keep her on. I help when I can, but just enough to keep her going. And then it's just sad to see where it's going, and it's just, man, I get
Yeah.
frustrated. I'm like, I wish you guys would have just listened. Like, it's not, and now all these people are getting affected by it, and it sucks. It sucks to watch it, but it's like any business, I guess. The strong will survive, and
Yep.
like they'll find something else to do.
Exactly. So, Kelly here has been a little quiet, and I was hoping that if she has any questions about what it's like, because we had something similar. So, Kelly was working for me for about a year. She started out as kind of an apprenticeship where she was learning about dog training through me, and then she was doing great. So, I hired her as a trainer. Unfortunately, now after she's been an awesome trainer with me, my own live-in decoy, it's been great. She's now moved down to Texas, and she is now airborne canine in Texas. So, Kelly, do you have any kind of questions or anything for Scott about what it's like to kind of, have that separate branch, and any questions for helping you get started down there?
I guess like one of the big things that I feel like I'm noticing here, and I was going to ask if you've noticed it through like being in different states, is like the whole idea of getting your dog trained. I feel like is a super like local thing. Like North Carolina, you get tons of people want their dog trained. They're looking for dog
Yeah.
trainers. I moved to Texas, and I feel like culturally, like all around, and I'm near a military base, so it's kind of like everybody anyways. But like dog training, like you don't see advertisements for it. People aren't looking for dog trainers. Like it's just like taboo. Is that something that you've seen as well?
Well, I learned this I don't want to say the hard way, but in a different way about North Carolina in general. Um, yeah, I went through a rough time when I was 30, and had I known what I know now, I'm 43 now, so I moved here when I was just before I was 40. I would have moved to North Carolina, and I probably would have got involved with Jerry over at Tar Heel when I was 30, 10 years before. And I've known him for, I mean, we went to a seminar, I think 6 or 7 years ago, and I've known him since then. I sold him a couple dogs even. And had I known, I wish I would have gone to his school and done that first. So North Carolina is so weird. And it's hard to compare. North Carolina is the second, well, this area, because you're in Sanford, right?
Yep.
Is that right? So
yeah, I'm 5 minutes down the road from Jerry.
yeah, so you got a hard knock to there anyway. So, but that area and just outside of it, is the fastest growing area, second fastest growing area in the nation, only to Nashville, Tennessee. So Texas comes with its own challenges because Texas is like the only state that could basically just survive on its own. It doesn't need anything from anybody else. Being next to a military base is a plus because you have an influx of new people every 3 years. So that's always a plus. I wish sometimes I was closer to some of those, but we've gotten some from Fayetteville and things like that. So again, where are you in Texas?
I'm like near Killeen. I'm outside Killeen near Fort Hood / Cavazos area.
Yeah, can't call it that anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Politically correct names these days, I guess. So I don't know much about that area, but um, uh, something I learned from Eric Stambro a long time ago was he said you got to post 3 times a day. So get two stories up, one post, whatever you got to do. That's the algorithm that they're looking for. And even now, they cross post. So Facebook will go to Instagram, Instagram will go to Facebook. Just do that heavy, and that's all free. It doesn't cost you anything. Learn to take good pictures. Only a couple years ago that I know you could take a picture with the iPhone upside down, and then when you turn it back, it flips it right side up. So you're always leaning down to get the dog to take a picture. What is the first thing the dog does? Gets up.
Yeah.
So now you can, instead of holding your phone like this, trying to get the picture with him, just flip it upside down, and now you sneak the picture, and it comes back. Portrait mode and all the editing stuff that comes with this day. I mean, I have a camera that I bought a couple years ago. It's phenomenal. We don't use it. I have an iPhone 13, I think, and they're just as good for what you're gonna put on that. And then I think websites are real big. I had somebody build ours. It's built in WordPress. We had a media company that we used for a year that it just didn't work. And there's these other ones that are out there that say they specialize in dog stuff, but they don't. I mean, if it's just you for now, man, post all you can. Stories, couple stories, couple posts, and get you the name of it. But I'm trying to look at my phone here to get names of it. Like a chat GTP type thing. Have you heard of those yet? Those are phenomenal. Yeah. You put like 3 words in, it gives you a whole paragraph. So that keeps things kind of fresh and rolling with that. And there's another one that we use, and I'm drawing a blank, that'll allow you to go in and post like 30 days worth of stuff. So you can go in one night when you're bored, and you can go in, you can set up all next week, and you're done. 1 post a day, you're done. Then all you got to do is just go in, pop stories up, take pictures, boom, boom, boom. All you got to do is keep your name ahead of everybody else's, and you'll be golden. I mean, you'll get that. I don't know what numbers you're looking for, how much you charge or whatever but you'll get that 4 dog range. And I mean, that's doable for one person. That's really kind of the number. I wish in a perfect world we could keep it that way, but sometimes you got to stretch it out to 6 and whatever else. But I mean, you'll get there.
Yeah, nice. Kelly, you have any other questions?
I don't think so at this moment, but I might come back with some.
All right. Well, don't be afraid to jump in, man. You've been way too quiet. It's
Yeah, that couch
weird.
is comfy. It's weird.
I know. I'm at my kitchen countertop, so I don't get to relax.
Yeah. This is the first time I've seen my office in like 2 months. There's literally a table right over there that was set up that my accountant was doing something here that has a whole bunch of papers on it that I probably should have looked at weeks ago. I told you I try to avoid all the business stuff as much as I can. I mean, you guys are literally sitting on to elevate the laptop. There's like one book that I should have done something with, and like two different checkbooks and a whole bunch of stuff. I'm like, I don't want any of this stuff. I
Yep.
just want to play with dogs.
Exactly. That's why we do it.
Yeah. That's what I initially had said that I made the cardinal mistake of I just don't want to deal with people anymore. I just want to play with dogs.
Nope.
And yeah, the people are sometimes we've had some great customers, but we've had some that are just like, oh man, I just regretted even taking your dog.
Yep.
But I guess you'll get that in anything. This is a very customer centric business. You have to be nice to them. You got to put up with all their stuff, and you got to cater to some of them. And some of them want more pictures than others, and some of them will literally just hand you a dog and be like, "See you in 3 weeks. I don't want anything to take this thing, please."
Oh yeah.
And those are the ones I like. I'm like, "Thank you. Call you in a couple weeks, buddy."
Yep.
And we'll just bang them out. So yeah.
Nice. All right. So I do want to talk a little bit more about kind of your education that got you prepared. Because I know you said that you have a master's in business.
No, just a regular degree.
So how much do you feel like that business degree was helpful in starting your business?
So, I mean, it was okay. A lot of the stuff from probably back then, I don't want to say it's outdated, but I'm still kind of antiquated with all the new stuff. It was more the experience, because I first had worked at Best Buy. I started running their shops for them, installing car radios and alarms and stuff. Like I said, I was real big into cars. So that's what started that. And then I became a manager for them and worked through stuff with that. So that was probably the bigger help, to be honest, because we had, I don't even know what the influx of people going through a day, but in the holiday season, we had 250 employees to deal with. And then I think in like 2004, I forget when it was, we had to count like it was like $1.2 million in cash after Black Friday.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, I think things like that is how to deal with all these things, and things they never teach you in school or even in business school. Deposits, they don't even teach you how to write a check anymore.
Yeah.
All this stuff, they'll teach you how to Venmo something, but they won't teach you how to write a check or do your taxes, all that stuff. I've been TurboTax guy.
Me too.
Or H&R Block forever, and I'm just hoping it doesn't come back. But
oh, come on. We actually, not to cut you off here, but I did a podcast with a girl who started her podcast. She had me on as a guest, and it was called Service to CEO. If you haven't checked it out, I'm like the fourth episode she did. But we talked a lot about, running the business and taxes, because, it's kind of we're trying to encourage people to get started in business. And a lot of people are so concerned about the IRS and taxes, and I'm going to go to jail if I do this wrong. But the IRS is extremely forgiving. And even if you get audited, all they're going to do is they're just going to do your taxes again for you, essentially, and tell you where you're screwed up.
Yeah. And I always, if you look, actually, there they are, right up in there. That's last year's taxes. You can see them in the corner there. Yeah. So I've kind of kept them out for my accountant's going to eyeball them. But the top of that, just above that yellow manila folder, that's all extra stuff that I found that I didn't account for. And I'm like, well, if I screwed up on this, here's a couple extra, so I throw things back in there at the end that you find throughout the year or whatever. So we're getting to that point where I don't know what point they consider a small business or what it is, but I know they just hired a whole bunch more IRS agents, and they're looking at that $450,000 mark. And
oh, good. I'm nowhere near that.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, after my whole life spending under that, last year we broke that. And then this year we'll come close to doubling that. So
when you say $450 mark, are you talking profit or just Total income.
That is a good question. They're probably gonna count total income. They're probably gonna go after the gross as that number that they're gonna set because they know, I mean, if you're banking 450,000, I mean, I can't imagine what you actually made, probably 2 million, and you're
Yeah.
getting your taxes way down to that 450 mark. Like,
Yeah. Because like,
I wish I could
don't
say
get me
that.
wrong, I learned what I could about taxes, and I knew that I didn't want to pay taxes. And the beauty about having a dog training business is that anything you do with your dogs is deductible.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
I deducted everything. I think my second year, I was at like just shy of 300,000, which was amazing.
Yeah.
But I deducted every last penny. I think I ended up with like 25,000 after all. But I also like
Yeah.
deducted all of my, employees' paychecks and my facility and rent and utilities and equipment, etc. So
We did too. So we were at that like 460 mark. And let me also stress that's what comes through like Square and things like that. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about the other stuff that doesn't,
nope,
we don't
we don't
talk
talk
about
about
that.
that
So
stuff.
so we hit like that 450, 460 mark, and I think I got it down to about the same thing, about 30. Which was a pretty genuine number. I didn't have to stretch a whole lot. Over the last couple of years, we've had 20 dogs. I think now we're down to 10. So like you said, everything's deductible. So all the food comes in. We use a Nook Shook. So
We do too.
we started putting it out and we're selling it like crazy. Like I'm gonna have to do another order now. So we probably order a pallet every month at this point, between selling it and using it. We have 7 vehicles. We have 2 mobile grooming vans, training van.
You have a whole
My
fleet.
my truck, which is a police truck, and we have another security truck, an expedition that holds 4 dogs. And then I got a new Tahoe that was like, I'm like, I can't like date and pull up in a police dog truck, It's like, so I'm like,
why not?
because most girls don't have your ad. I'm trying to find these girls. Like, where are these girls? They don't. They're like,
We're out training our dogs. What we're doing.
yeah, moving to Texas and stuff. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I have 7. So we get to write all that off, and I take the mileage and all that stuff. So there's a lot of tricks out there, and the TurboTax stuff helps, and it walks you through a lot of these. They're not even cheats. I call them cheats, but they're the loopholes and all the stuff. So yeah, I mean, get well in your taxes and all that stuff. And when you start talking about payroll and all that stuff, it's different. All our payroll runs through Square.
That's what we did too.
Yeah, I advise any of these things that help dog businesses on, and they can always, again, we're Next Level Kennels on anything. So anybody that listens to us, you can reach out to me anytime. We're so open about this stuff and helping everybody grow. Like I only want everybody to succeed. If everybody could have, 10 dogs per person every month, I'd be super happy. And if they're growing it to all that stuff, I'm super happy. There's like 6.8 billion people in the country, and there's 1 dog for every 2 people. And that's only the accounted dogs, not the feral dogs or anything like that. So there's so many dogs to go around. And, occasionally you'll see me too on a Facebook post or something. Somebody's looking for a dog trainer. No, use this one, and kind of undercut things. But that's about as dirty as I get. We try not to talk bad about. We have great relationships with almost everybody. There's a few out there we don't, which is fine. But we have a great reputation.
I think it's important to know, like, not to associate with certain trainers because based on what they're doing, that it's just going to bring your reputation down too.
We had a person here, and I won't say their business. I won't even give them that platform, but they were it wanted to come here and intern. Okay, that's fine. I think it was like the second or third day, one of my working dogs, one of the prospects, who was like 8 months old, tried to kill me. And so she had to get, yeah, right. I loved her. She's so toxic, like all my relationships. I love her.
Yep.
And then, so the dog goes up, and then the intern seen that and never showed up again. Fast forward maybe 2 years, whatever, she opens her own dog training business. Read her website, decades of experience, and
oh my God.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it makes me want to vomit every time I see it. Like,
yep.
And that one we're Yeah, sometimes I got to bite my tongue, but I don't really hold my tongue on that one very much. And there's very few others. I mean, there's some others I steer away from because I don't want to deal with them. And then there's some of the bigger ones that just have certain people that I steer away from. But
Hmm.
I mean, I hope, and if anybody sees this and has a problem with us, that they can come to us and tell us, and we'll fix it pretty quick. But
Yeah.
we
Well,
don't have
like
problems with anybody.
you had briefly mentioned earlier, the fact that I live right down the street from Tar Heel and Jerry
Yeah,
Bradshaw, like that's not actually competition for me. One, their services are wildly different, but two, I don't know if you know this, but the new obedience instructor at Tar Heel was actually my instructor when I was at the Star Mark Academy in Texas.
mm,
And because their program is primarily the school, when they get those really challenging behavior mod cases, or if they're just full, they send me so many referrals. Um, and I always tell people, like, there's two types of dog trainers out there. There's dog trainers who are better than me, or there's dog trainers who are worse. And if they're better than me, then they're just a resource. And if they're
yeah,
worse than me, then they're not my competition anyway.
yeah.
So,
And so when we came down here and we bought the kennel, I had these daydreams of, and I taught my wife a whole bunch of things. I'm like, you're gonna run the kennel, and she fought me on it. She pretty much hated it. In hindsight, I see that more. And I'm like, I'm gonna develop our special operations group, and I'm gonna do working. Like, this is gonna be awesome. Like, I'm gonna work all these police dogs. It's gonna be so cool. And you just can't make money on police dogs.
right.
Like, and I don't care what anybody says. You take some of the bet. Now you can. 10 people are going to jump on this and say we do it just fine, blah blah blah. But you take something like Tar Heel, who had a reputation for the controlled aggression book, Jerry
Mhm.
Bradshaw and himself, and that, and police dogs, and look at where they've gone over the last couple of years, and it's been pet dogs and stuff, and they've rolled through a bunch of people, and they've redeveloped their stuff. Eric Stambro, who's the co-host of Working Dog Radio, is a good friend of mine.
Mhm.
He doesn't even he'll train dogs, but he doesn't import them anymore or do anything like that.
Well, with COVID, importing dogs was near impossible.
Oh
Like even Jerry talked about how hard it was just to get dogs in from Canada. Like
yeah,
it was
yeah.
insane.
Him and Michael Nesbitt, who's another great resource, grassroots canine. You're talking literally just, it's like, it shouldn't even be international, but it is. And they were real strict. I think they probably just let go of some of their COVID restrictions like this month or something. They
Oh
were
my God.
so, the major cities and territories up there were just ridiculous. So a lot of them initially, when that happened, shipped a lot of dogs down here and got people to work them for them down here. And some of the California people I know, where the weather's a little different and they can do things more year round, they can get away with it. But I'm going to just stand firm on this, is that you can't survive just police dogs. You can't do it because there's so many not unknowns. The hips might not come back or what you like, that the accidents, they break a tooth.
Mhm.
A dog I have right now is a phenomenal bomb dog, and I do bite work with him. I say he's trained in handler protection. He tracks. He's got a broken tooth, and he wasn't working out. I could just name 100 things that can go on. The returns. Oh, we worked him for 30 days and we don't really like him. No, you worked him for 30 days and you screwed him up.
Yep.
That's what really happened. So now you got to swap that one. Now, what are you going to do with this? Another guy, I think he's close to you, Jim O'Brien. He's down there. He does a lot of police dogs, but he got into a lot of pet stuff as well.
Mhm. Well, the money is in pet stuff,
It's that
and
when you
everybody
take
knows that.
everything, when you take everything and you take a dog and you train them, and even if you pay yourself $10 an hour and you just for math's sake, I sat down and did this one, and it's from start to finish of a police dog, getting it in, buying it, or raising it yourself. Really, sometimes the costs are the same. Going through all this stuff and selling it. By the time you're done, if you're 4 months into this dog, you're going to profit somewhere just above $3,000. When I can take a 6-month-old doodle and pull him around on a leash for 3 weeks and get him to be the best doodle in the neighborhood, and we're going to make $3,000 or more. I don't know what your prices are, but the average price in the nation is $1,000 per week, give or
Mhm.
take. So it's just there. So we here sell a police dog about one a year at this point, and that's usually the last dog I sold to. Actually, I sold it to Eric. Was just a dog that happened to come through here. That again, this young, admirable wannabe trainer, all the best intentions, got this dog, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to be a police dog trainer." And we're like, "Buddy, you're not a police dog trainer. This dog is running you all over the place. The leash is stuck around the tree, and he's a disaster." When he was showing me this dog, I said, "I'm going to do you a favor, and I'm not going to give you what you want for this dog, but I will give you what you paid for it, so you can get out from under it." And we did some work here, and we were able to get rid of it too. And now he's a phenomenal police dog in Ohio. So that was the last one I sold,
Yeah.
and we've dwindled down our stuff. We've dwindled down our breeding because even what I was known for when I was getting $3,000 for a German Shepherd puppy against last litter of 3 puppies that we had. I fought to sell the last one, like we couldn't even sell it. So
Yeah.
so we're getting out of that. So we were down from 20 dogs here to 10. I did keep a couple females from my female, which I love, and the rest of them are just working dogs. We have 4 bomb dogs here, 1 drug dog, and well, one of the bomb dogs is retired. So for our special operations groups, that's 5 of them, and then the 2 other breeding dogs, and then I have a pointer that we have she's just a goof. She's great for demos and stuff.
Nice.
And then we have I feel like I'm missing one, but so when you have so many dogs, it's like you can't keep track of them.
Oh, I know. Sometimes, like with as many dogs as I have at my house, I'll let all my dogs in, go to bed, and be like, "Why do I hear a dog barking outside?" Dakota. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it happens.
Yeah. I'm lucky. Most a couple of ours live in the kennel because they can't be house dogs. They'll never be. They're just too much for that.
Mhm.
And like just look at the dog in the background there. Feet were up in the air.
That's
Oh.
that's
I want your life.
Sweeter.
And then I have 5 that live inside that rotate. I have my retired guy who's the dog that started it all. Blitz. That's his head on the logos for all of
Oh,
that.
nice.
It's my Rottweiler, and that was him. He's 13 and a half now, and he's losing his hearing, but he's still, even after we've trained and we've done stuff, you'll see him. He'll sniff his nose up, and he'll go over to the vehicles and do whatever and start sniffing around. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, he was that. Everybody's got it. He was that once in a lifetime dog. I mean, he'll
Mhm.
do anything I've ever asked him to do, and I could train him to do the goofiest stuff, or I could train him in the hardest situations. Like we worked in New York City. He was, off leash working through the back of Madison Square Garden, Penn Plaza in front of Penn Station, all that stuff, and nothing
Wow.
ever bothered him.
That is
He has
so
two
cool.
he has 2 live finds.
What do you mean by live finds? Like explosives?
Yeah, explosive devices.
Whoa.
One we're never supposed to talk about, and another one was a pressure cooker with like nails and stuff in it. It was probably never going to go off, but it had everything in there to go
Wow.
off. So it
Oh my
was,
God.
yeah. You want to see, you're just, meandering along, doing another thing. I'm like, man, I'm gonna hit that gyro stand later, and the next
Mhm.
thing you know, your dog like sits down and won't move, and
Oh my God.
that can't be right.
So, like, my education in working dogs is more than general masses for sure, but not nearly anywhere near what you've done or like Jerry or those folks. However, now I know with like narcotics and like cadaver dogs, you generally want them to be as close to the scent as possible when they're indicating. For explosives, how do you want your indications?
A lot of people have trained used to train the dogs differently, and I think a lot of people have come together and pretty much say that they'll train the same way. Just what we're looking for is different. The first thing you want is a dog that's going to hunt. If you throw a ball in the weeds, is it going to look for it forever until it
Sure.
drops, type thing. So once you got that, then you're just training them to find whatever it is. So depending on who you talk to, they'll tell you that it's the same regardless. So they want their nose on the odor.
Don't you ever think that's a little bit precarious?
And there's guys that still, and everybody has their own ways, but
Right.
they'll do, and I think Jerry does this. I'm not sure. I just had a brain fart there, but they'll do the odor in the pipes with the holes in it, they'll throw
Yep.
it so the dog gets used to the odor. I don't do that because I'm just like, here my dog is happy as can be one day, and he comes up with this, half a pressure cooker in his mouth, wagging his
Right.
tail at me, and I'm like, dude, what are
That's
you
what I'm
doing?
picturing.
Yeah. So it's because almost all the bomb dog handlers I've ever known retire without a find, and that's the hardest thing on the dog because the dog doesn't get the real life experience on it, and so you'll see a
Hmm.
lot of. I have a bomb dog now, Shadow, who was my second dog, who worked in the city with me as well, and she used to go out and she would avoid the odor and then go and hunt and hunt. And I had Justin Rigney here one time for a seminar, and I showed him, and he's like, "Man, you're just doing short searches." And it never clicked on me that she wanted to work so much. She was avoiding it. She's like, "I'm still going to look. I'm still going to look. I'm still," until she was ready to say, "Okay, it's over here." So little things like that kind of really, really get into it. But in the private sector, from the guy I worked for, his name is Fred Hopper out of the city. He had a 4 foot rule, 4 foot cube. He's like, he just wants you to find it within 4 feet, give or take. So
That
we
sounds
were we
really
were
familiar. I feel like I've seen a video of that somewhere.
yeah, and here's the thing. It'll shock most listeners and most everybody is that dog trainers didn't uh, invent anything. Somebody before them invented it. We
Hmm.
My ex-father-in-law, he always said it's not who did it first, it's who did it best.
Yep.
And I believe strongly in that. And so the 4 foot rule is really what we've lived off of. We do, like I said, we have one drug dog here that we keep around, and he had 2 drug dogs because he did some private airport stuff, but he had 15 bomb dogs. So we all trained the same. It didn't matter. Training days when we went to warehouses or whatever it was, we all trained the same. He just moved the odor around. And occasionally he would throw out this thing of road flares with a old style clock that he had duct taped to it, and you had to look at it like it would be right in front of your face, and you got your dog searching around. He's like, "You didn't notice the explosive hanging from right there?" And I'm like, "No." So because you get
Yeah,
so
right.
tunnel blind, you're like, the dog is doing what it's going to do. So
Hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
man, that's awesome. Um, so did you ever get into any of the dog sports?
no, no,
Really?
a combination between time, ability, because like you said, there's people that are better than us, people that are worse than us, and I never put myself on any pedestal. I never went to any school for anything, and I'll always admit that. I learned from so much trial and error.
Hmm.
Blitz, the dog we talked about before, has had every mistake I've ever made has went into that dog, and every triumph from fixing it has gone back into him. Um, a lot of trial and error, even before YouTube videos and all that stuff coming up through 2010 on. Um, I learned from a guy who, said put a choke chain on him and yank him around until he sits. Okay. So we started with that, and then came prong collars. So we started with that. And it's like, then some of the first e-collars we ever had that we bought around in 2014 or so. Wow, zap him till he sits down and then stop,
Right. Of
And so we did everything wrong,
course.
everything wrong. And then, training with Blitz and doing some of the explosive stuff and doing I start with boxes, so I get them on boxes, and then we'll do one, and we did it with a ball or food or however you want to do it. But then just seeing how much more fun it was for us, and it was less stressful, and we weren't
Hmm.
like screaming at the dog, and you're coming home and your back is sore and your voice is hoarse, and it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
The dog's miserable, you're miserable, but cool, he'll sit now. That's great.
Right.
Um, so really, I only got into food maybe 5 years ago, and doing the food and starting with that stuff, and just made a better relationship for the dogs, and finding out really what they're going to work for, and every dog is different, whether it's food or toys. Some of my dogs are trained to sit on odor, and they'll stay there. And then a ball comes flying over their head, and they love it. My drug dog and I think another dog is trained on a marker. So they, and it's tough training them too. So it was working the drug dog, and you throw something over his head and he doesn't move, and I'm like,
Yep.
oh yes, and he takes off running. You
Yep.
know, so I didn't train him initially. He came to us from another company who does like a lot of raves and a lot of like loud stuff, and he's
Yeah.
pretty skittish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, great hunting dog, probably the best hunting dog here. But if there's a gunshot, he'll run off, and you'll probably never find him.
Oh, wow.
So they got rid of him, and they just wanted him to go to a place where he was going to still work and be taken care of. So we got him, and he's a rock star. I mean, but they trained him with that indirect reward system, and that's the first dog that I got to work off of that. So, and just the best teacher I've ever had was the dogs.
Oh, of
We've
course.
taught so many dogs, and then getting into the pet dogs, so different because you have this, German Shepherd or Cross or Malinois or whatever, who just wants to work all day, who just up and down off the bed, jumping around, doing this, doing that, to now getting somebody Shih Tzu who who's used to laying on the couch and doesn't want to do anything. Like, how are you going to motivate that thing? And like, how far should you take, the first, not feeding the dog for a day or 2 days, or,
Yeah.
and they come to you and they're fat and you're like, oh,
Well, everyone
God.
looks at like the Malinois and Dutch Shepherds and all these dogs doing all these crazy and incredible things and think, oh my God, that person must be an incredible dog trainer. And don't get me wrong, it takes some
they're all
semblance
right.
of training to teach a dog to do that, but they're like taking a race car and winning a race. Now take your beat up 2010 Corolla and try to win that race, and you're going to have a lot of difficulty. But if you put enough work into it, you can still be competitive. It's just going to be a hell of a lot harder.
Yeah, I say that, you mentioned dog sports before, so I'm like, well, any good dog, and again, this is talking just from ignorance, but any good dog and good trainer can get their first level, their BH or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Any good trainer can get their ones. Any good dog with that trainer can get their twos, and any good pair can get their threes. And I know that's a variety of things, but that's how I kind of gauge the level of dog versus the level of trainer, because again, we can be the best trainer in the world, and if that dog isn't going to do it, how are you going to do it?
Yep.
Because you have one modality and I have one way of doing it, and that's where a lot of these trainers get blindsided with some of these other dogs, is because they've always done it this way. This is the way I've always done it, and it's going to work. We're just going to.
And if it doesn't work, there's something wrong with your dog.
Yeah, we can't do this. This dog is untrainable.
Yeah,
can't happen.
That sounds really familiar to a lot of trainers or like sport trainers around here, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, this dog's no good. Some of the best police dogs I've ever seen came from sport washouts because they said they would never do it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a different type or different, whatever. But then that's going back to why I never got involved with it. Just looking from the beginning, I'm like, and again, they're all different. I hate saying this, but I don't want to offend anybody, but you just look at some of these sport groups and you're like, oh, it's high school all over again.
Yeah, like, it really is.
I don't want to do it. I just want to, but we have a group that comes here. They use our field once a month. It's a Doberman club. And I love going out there and watching them. But, we have a deal with them. I'm like, as long as my dog gets to bite your decoy, you can use the field.
Oh,
so
nice.
they come out once a month, and when they're all done, I send Grim out there, and because after taking these sport dogs who sit, bark and hold, bite, do all this, and now you have Grim, which is my Dutch Shepherd. He comes out and he's like, "Who we killing today?"
Go team Dutchie! I love my Dutchies, by the way. I have 2 of them. So
this is my first Dutchie. This came from Eric Stanbro. He imported it, and he wasn't biting well and doing a couple other things that he just didn't like. So he was going back, and I was on a cruise. It's probably the worst vacation of my life, but
why? Because you didn't bring your dogs?
Should have brought my dog. That was number one. But on the second day, a Malinois cross puppy that I'd raised from a puppy, and he was an explosive dog, and we had a contract to work in about 2 weeks. He passed away while he was here, and I was there. Yeah. So I'm going to cry now. I will always, and nobody can ever talk me out of it, I'll always blame myself, because he died he lived inside with me, but he was in the kennels here. and just doing Malinois shit. It's nobody's fault. He always, wall backflip, wall backflip, and that was his thing. So we think he hit the back of his head, and by the time they found him the next morning, his temperature was like 108 or 109. So
Oh my God.
yeah, it was bad. And then there was a whole separate thing with the girl I was with on the third day. So that was just, yeah. So it was bad. And I called Eric up from the boat and I was like, I need a dog. Because my guy's knock on wood, he's 13 and a half and he shouldn't have made it to 13 and a half. But everybody else in his litter is gone. Two of them were police dogs and one went to somebody else I know, and they've all passed away. So I'm like, I need a dog. Can't be a puppy. I'm not training it. You are. What are we doing? That was pretty much the conversation. He's like, well, I'm literally about to drive from Ohio to Washington to ship this dog back. He's biting and he's not letting, he's letting go, and he's not what I want. I said, cool. He'll hunt, sold. So I was like, don't even call me back and just let me know. Talked to him a couple of days later and just hunts like a monster. So we put him on explosives and tracking. So we do all that stuff with him. And then we start doing bite work stuff with him. He jumps up on the table here and it's just like a light bulb hits and he's like, go time. I know what this is. So we got him and we get him on the decoy and we just can't get him off. Like, I don't know what's going on. So I call Eric and I'm like, but I thought you said this dog wouldn't bite. And then we do it a couple more times and we're talking back and forth. And I'm like, did you know his canine tooth is broken? He's like, no. I was like, yeah, and his bottom ones are digged out. I was like, he's been chewing on the fences wherever he was overseas for sure. And but his front canine is pointed, looks just like a canine. But if you look on the backside of it, you can see the whole root was exposed.
Oh, wow.
I said, that's why he was biting and letting go. It hurt. But by the time he came to me, the tooth is dead. And now he's back to just being a monster. But he's the coolest dog I've ever had. Like, I never had a Dutchie, but he's absolutely in between that Malinois and Shepherd. I wanted a more high drive Shepherd, and just I think getting the Dutchie is what I wanted. But he's so cool. I mean, we take him to demos, kids pet him, and it's time to work, and he just shuts it back on off. So it's yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm all about him. Yeah. So if you want to, let me know, get a hold of me. I'll bring him down and we'll do some work. Or you come up, you can see the table.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be great. You can say, or you don't have to say if you don't want to, but I was wondering which Doberman club it was, because I've been working with one of the Doberman clubs in this area. I was wondering if it might be the same one.
Spot. Now look back because I can't remember the name. But don't be offended if they hear this. I can't remember any of the names.
Oh no. I trialed not this past weekend, but the weekend before with the Old North.
Yeah, that's them.
Yeah. So I trialed with them. I've been working with them a bit. They're awesome. I was hoping it was them.
Elizabeth lives right around you there.
Yeah.
And then Cam lives in Raleigh or something. I've known her for a while. I trained her dog initially.
Nice.
And then she wanted to do some stuff with it. And I said, well, listen, I said, your dog is your dog and he's super cool. This may be as far as he goes. I think if you want him to go further, you have to put in all the work. And man, she did. And she's crushing it. I don't know if she got her 1 or her BH or I don't know what they're called anymore, but I know that she just did something. We were supposed to sponsor that and do a bunch of stuff. They were actually supposed to have that here initially, but then I think it got too big for here. So they did it and I feel bad because we were supposed to sponsor and do a bunch of stuff there, and it kind of got on the back burner because I had back surgery 3.5 weeks ago.
That's okay. We end up sponsoring it, so that's fine.
Yeah.
And we competed.
I did see your stuff. I did see your thing come up there, and you had like a picture of like the table with all the leashes and stuff. Yeah.
Yep. So we did that trial. We sponsored one of the trophies. We competed in it. Medic did his level 1, and then this past weekend we did our level 2. So we're big.
He's
hearing us talking about him. That's why he's going nuts.
Well, we'll sponsor with it and get in big with him next year. But it was just, I got so screwed up because doing my back surgery and it was horrible. They fused my L4 and 5, and it's it's been a disaster before. But it's better now. I mean, so we'll see how much that gets me back into. He said it's about a year healing before I can really do all the crazy shit I told him I used to do. So.
Nice. Very cool. So so if anyone's listening and wants to learn more about the Doberman Club, that's the Old North State working Doberman club.
Yeah.
They primarily do IGP stuff. I don't know if they also do any of the other sports, but I know their primary focus is IGP.
Yeah, I think they're focused on IGP and some other people will come down with the Schutz and stuff or whatever it's called now and
American
deal with that
Schutzen.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So
yeah, we're
they
about
got
to start doing that too, hopefully. But
dog sport people, man, they'll drive around a van with 4 crates in it, sleeping on top of it, going to different stuff, and it's like, yeah, I'm
that's this guy.
I'm all for it, but I got to be able to, and that's hard for me to even say because I haven't even had a personal life for years now, and
Well, you kept like kind of saying not to like you don't know what our prices are for our programs and mentioning that $1,000 kind of the weekly rate for on average, which you're absolutely correct. But we do ours a little different because I do have my personal life, which is trialing with my dogs, which I do almost every weekend in one sport or another. So we actually don't do our board and trains over the weekends. They're just Monday through Friday, which then allows us to have
and
our
you send them
weekends off.
home.
Yep.
So you send them home for. See, people wanted to do that and toy with it, but I'm so worried that they're just going to screw the dog up again, and by Monday we got to start over.
Well, yes and no. The reason why I kind of like doing it is it allows the handlers to learn in smaller chunks. Sometimes learning 3 weeks worth of training in like one go home lesson is hard. So if we're just doing that first week, what the dog learned that first week, and give them like, this is what you're going to do this weekend with your dog. Yeah, the dog regresses a little bit by Monday, but the handler has such a better understanding of the process from start to finish. At least it's worked that way with our clients.
And do you do it in 3 weeks or 4 weeks?
Our smallest program is 3 weeks. We do like make recommendations based on what the client is working with. If it's like a behavior mod case, we'll probably say longer. If they're looking for something special or special tasks or other issues, we might recommend longer. But if it's just your average doodle, whatever, who wants basic obedience, yeah, 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's what we do. We do 3 weeks, and 3 weeks is our off leash e-collar program.
Oh, nice.
So we'll do that, and it always ends up running over. To be honest, it's always a couple days over, but that and scheduling and getting them here and doing that. And, so yeah, we do about the same thing. So
yeah, but I love so the weekend before last was that trial by the Doberman Club. This past weekend was with the Fayetteville Schutzen Club. This upcoming weekend, I really want to go to the IGP Nationals because they don't have any vendors. And so it's going to be huge, but I need to get a different camper because my camper is just too big. And I need a smaller camper to bring all 7 of my dogs with me, if that makes sense. But if I travel, I take them all because I don't have anyone I trust watching my dogs.
yeah, that's the way we were in the beginning. Maybe 5 years ago now, bought a toy hauler, pull behind camper, and that was the idea to put you put the crates in there and all that stuff. But when we moved here, we downsized. We got rid of that and got a small driving camper, RV, whatever they're called, and so that just holds 2 dogs now. But now I have a kennel and I have staff and I have all this stuff, so they handle my dogs all the time. I literally just go up to the kennel techs. I'm like, can you give Shadow a bath and whatever, and they take care of it, and all my dogs know them. And so like I said, what happened with Chaos was a freak accident. It was just him doing Malinois shit, and but that's when we're into this and we do all this, that's why you take all your dogs with you, because you freak out that something bad's going to happen when you're away, and you don't know, you don't want that to happen. And it probably could have happened if I was here and he was just in the kennel for the day. But that's why I didn't really. He's a jumper, and we knew that he'll when I used to take him to Lowe's, he used to run up and jump on the 6-foot toolboxes. And
oh my god!
There. Yeah, I taught him that because I was cool for pictures, and then now he thinks that's what he does when we go in there. So he can jump a 6-foot fence. So we put him in the kennels, and it's just what happens. So it's not. But everything happens. You move on, and everything happens for a reason. And so now we have Grim.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so we're going to start wrapping this up. So for some of our closing remarks, what would you give advice wise for someone who's thinking about either starting their own business or, on the flip side of that, becoming a professional dog trainer with an established business that already exists?
Yeah. When I jumped into this, there was no plan B. Like I said, we talked about earlier, we um, sold things and did whatever and ran here, and there was no plan B. So if you're gonna do it, do it. Because if you have a plan B, then you're already gonna fail. You're already ready. You're preparing to fail. You're like, well, if this doesn't work out, then I'll just do this. I'll go make pizzas or something, and then this isn't what you want to do. Financially, and I stole this from somebody, but if you can't lose 6 months of income or business revenue or rent or mortgage, and you look at it and you said, I lost 6 months, you say, oh, that sucks, but it didn't hurt you, then you're not ready to jump into it anyways. You need to put away, you need to have savings, you need to have these fallbacks. When I came down here, the savings account was X number or whatever, and then COVID hit. So it's like boom, boom, boom. You never know what's going to happen, and I hope we've learned from that, and that's not going to happen again. But um, it's a balance. You'll have 8 dogs one month, 2 dogs the next month. So you need to learn to budget these things and go through and although we talked about before how to model businesses as from a social media standpoint and learning the algorithms and SEO and all that stuff is something to learn and to dig into. Don't fall into these insta famous dog trainers who run out and take these cool pictures of their dog doing this, and now all of a sudden they're giving online lessons and they're doing all this, and you want to watch all these, oh, we do marketing, we do this, and you want to be all these cool people. And don't be like them. If you want to go be like somebody, go to these IGP trials, meet these people here. And that's the way I did it from uh handshakes and fist bumps. I went to um seminars and met people. Can name drop for a second, Cody Talent, Justin Rigney, Cameron Ford, Eric Stambro, uh, uh, Ted Summers, all these people are people that I can pick up my phone and call and ask, or hit them up on Messenger and ask them for something. And these are big names in the business. And I'm nobody. I'm so bottom of the barrel compared to these people.
Bro,
Like
it's
I
so
said,
funny because you mentioned all these names. I'm like, I've met him. I know that person. I went to that seminar.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they'll occasionally, like, someone will comment on one of my posts. I'm like, this person looks at my stuff.
yeah.
I'm nobody.
I still
Like,
get that feeling when your icon pops up and it's like so and so liked your post. You're like,
yep.
whoa,
Yep.
what do I think one day the other day it was like Michael Ellis or something, and it was like, boom. If you go through, and I don't know if you listen to Working Dog Radio
Yep.
podcast, but go through and listen to all 200 episodes, and I'm mentioned on there, I think, in like a dozen of them or so.
Oh, wow.
And, Eric's worked with my dogs or done this, or I've stayed at Eric's house, or Ted's called me up and we've had long discussions about some personal stuff and then dog stuff, or Alicia or whatever. And or a good friend of mine, Travis Bobo, who's down in, I think it's the Fayetteville area, Pinehurst. He was a trainer for the Third Special Forces group. He had like a 2-part episode on there, and they talked about us for a while. And it's just, you never get over that kid feeling of like, you're talking about me, like I still put these people on a pedestal, and they're still
Yep.
friends. And if they call me, I'll hop in the RV and I'll be there tomorrow. And I know they will for me too, because they've come down here and they've done stuff and help grow our name to something that's, they put kind of their seal approval on the reputation of what this has become. And we went from literally one dog wanting to work, buying a good German Shepherd, to two dogs and breeding and all this stuff and going through genetics and learning this to it probably won't be this year, but it'll be next year. We'll break $1 million. And it's
Wow.
just like, yeah,
That's
to go
amazing.
from that to this, and again, it's not bragging. Analytics are a big part of what I do, and I kind
Yeah.
of pay attention to numbers and waves and things like that. And it's not a mirror of success based on a number, but it's a goal, and it's what you're reaching. And again, not majority of that doesn't go back into savings account. Like, we upgrade the building all the time.
Yep.
We're upgrading the vehicles. We're doing this. We're sponsoring tons of things. Like, this year was a little lax on things, but we do tons of events and sponsoring. Like, talk about, we have 3 or 4 bins that are on wheels. We have tents, or we take other stuff, our special operations group stuff, when it goes out.
Hmm.
uh, with that type of stuff, we have drones and all that stuff. So we'll take all that stuff to these events and just make
Yeah.
it cool and have a fun day of it. And that's really where you need to be
Yep.
if you want to start out and go to this stuff. There's so much free stuff out there, and there's tons of free content online. Like I said, just be careful, and you'll never know who it is. But these Insta famous people who just want to go out and they show good, and they look good, and but half the people didn't do anything. They just went out and made a name for themselves. And there's even half of those people don't even touch a leash anymore. The whole online thing is got me. And I think Jerry's one that started to do it, but he's got some oomph behind the name. These other
Yeah.
people that are going out and doing it, just be careful with that type of stuff. You don't want to
Yep.
model yourself after those people. The people that go out and put the work in, have done it. Like I said, I mentioned him a couple of times, but Aaron Taylor at Ridgeside Canines, one of the ones I've idolized through the business aspect and what he's done and how he took some dog training and did some things. And I've been to multiple seminars where me and him have talked afterwards. And he's another one that was at the time was quick to open up his PayPal account and show everybody on the thing. He's like, "This is what we're making doing dog training," and boom, 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 boom. And there's no reason you can't do the same thing. And that just, a lot of conversations we had afterwards is
Mhm.
what led me to here. I said, he was a cop and he jumped ship and did it, and I did the
Yeah.
same thing, man. I just left it behind, and when my credentials were going to expire, I was so happy. And then I was like, yeah, now there's no going back. And then when COVID hit, they granted everybody a free year. So I was like, it's still active card, but I don't want it. Like, so
Yeah, you bring up a
uh,
really good point that I think is important too, is that, so many people who dive into the dog world do so because maybe they're not the most outgoing, they're not the most social person. And, dog training is such a cool outlet. But, if you want to succeed in business, you really have to go out there and talk to
yeah,
people and go to events and schmooze and meet people, meet your idols, meet the people that you're, wanting to be, admire to be like, and, put your face out there so people know who you are.
now we're so far, that's a great starting point, and that'll lead you to the person that you want to be in this. But then when you get to this level, I found myself, I'm out there kissing ass with now politicians and mayors and police chiefs and
Wow.
the head of the biggest church, and it's like just all these people that I never thought I would be talking to. and
Mhm.
and that's why Sam, our trainer here, works great here, because that's not really, she doesn't want to do that. That's not really her thing. um and especially when people start to get nasty and stuff, certain types of people shut down, and that's not me, man. I'm from New York. I enjoy a good fight. So I've gone after it with a couple people, and we've 2 people we've kicked out of the building even. And it's just,
Wow.
um so it takes a special type of person to get to whatever point, but it doesn't mean it can't be every person. Just decide where you want to be and what you're happy with. Are you cool living in your van and going from place to place? And do that, man. Whatever makes you happy. I never thought I would get to this. It definitely makes me happy. I would have done a lot. I would have done things a lot different going away. Uh, the way that I did, in hindsight, I think is that way for everybody. But
Mhm.
um, I mean, I'm still here, so we're still here. We're
Nice.
not going anywhere. Um,
So I guess for my next question for you, and this is going to probably be the last one, for someone who was interested in becoming a professional dog trainer, or maybe they have been, brushing up their dog training skills for a while and they're interested in doing it for a paycheck now, what would you be looking for like potential hires, potential trainers? What do you look for in someone who's looking to come work for you?
Um, I don't care how good they are. I will never hire somebody that has on their resume that they're a master trainer. And right. I hate that term because, that's like, you put it to like almost like a ninja type thing. You're a master trainer. You can't learn anymore.
Yep.
You're it. And I think our business here is ever evolving, and listening to where I came from choke chains and throw chains. Guys I was training with used to carry around a chain collar in their pocket so they could throw it at their dog if he was doing something wrong. To where we are today, to where we're using electronics and all this stuff, you have to be willing to learn. I don't care who you are. We are very big on the four quadrants. I don't even want to say balanced because we do, depending on the dog, you're leaning one way or another. Some dog may be heavy food motivated and some dogs aren't. So, whether we're using the reinforcement or the punishment side of whatever, or withholding food in itself as a punishment. So you just got to be willing to learn. Your way, I promise you, is not the right way. If even the three of us, probably the only thing that we'll agree on wholeheartedly is that, the only thing two dog trainers will agree on is that the third one is wrong.
Yep.
So, and that just goes in that you have to be willing to learn. Like, I have a lot of things that I do my way, and I'm tougher on dogs. Sam is softer on dogs, so she can get some of these dogs to go out and do things. And something somebody showed me about getting, kind of sticking your leg out and getting the dog to down through your leg. I don't know if you've ever done that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and then they'll just automatically plop down, and you reward them that way. I just reminded her of something of that maybe a couple months ago now, and she did it, and now the dog's just, when you get to that throwing behavior stage, starts throwing the down, up, down, 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 up, down. And it's like it just works, and it's you don't have all the answers. And now I'm haven't touched a leash for money in a year. She's been doing it all and handling it all. Her and Maddie do the most of it, and I'm forever grateful for that because my back couldn't take it. But I'm out of touch with most of the stuff, so I would have to. They're telling me things that they're doing, and I'm like, how'd you get this dog to do that, or how'd you whatever? So we try to talk about it a lot, and just that's the biggest thing I would look for in somebody that I want to hire. And the blank canvas is sometimes better, less things to unwind, but we'll take somebody from a school. We just got in with much as I always kind of no, I kind of badmouth them throughout the years.
Oh, no.
That ABCDT, the ABC dog training thing where they do most of it online, and then they take, you're making a face here like,
that's because Kelly was a ABC graduate.
Oh, are you?
That's how she started with me.
Yeah, so the same thing. So again, I was like, this is stupid. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So we got into them recently with taking some of their grooming people on, and I'm like, free dog washers, I'll take that all day long. But the more I look at their program and the more I look at their stuff, I'm like, man, if you could sit down in front of a computer for whatever it is, 700 hours, and go through all this stuff and then want to come to learn some hands-on stuff, I'm like, as long as your mind is open, because again, I will use any tool that's at my disposal. I don't care if it's a remote collar or a hot dog, and anything in between. Some dogs don't like prong collars, so we might have to go back to using a choke collar, or some dogs are escape artists, so we have to put a double lead on them, or we have to do this or a catch. Or as long as you're open to doing anything and you're willing to speak up is another big thing. It's like, I don't think we should do it this way. Maybe this would work better. I'm like, all right, try it. Maybe I'll shut it down. Maybe I won't. But speak up. let's do it. Everybody's in for the, ultimately is we're in it for the dog and for the owners to give them that better bond, that better relationship, because there's nothing worse. And I had dogs my whole life. And my first dog that I had that was my own was a white German Shepherd. And looking back at him, I don't even remember using a leash on him. He ran around, did whatever he wanted, tore up crates, ripped up a blanket or two. He did whatever he wanted. And then you go to this German Shepherd that I've had for the last 13 and a half years, and just the training that went into him, just nothing. And if I can give people that, and if you're willing to give people that, if you're willing to, again, coming from the ABC, if you're willing to sit in front of a computer and then sit in front of a person and then watch YouTube stuff and hang out with stuff instead of, being on Facebook and just screwing around unless you're posting, we're all in. I'll take you all day long. We wanted to take more interns and do more things, but life has just been crazy the last year. And a lot of them you can't find anymore, because they'll go and they'll do again, we're just stuck on this, but the ABC thing, and then they're going to go open a business. And I'm going to make millions of dollars because I'm the coolest dog trainer on the block.
Yep.
And you're not, because you're stuck and you didn't learn anything. You got education, but you didn't learn anything. And that goes all the way back to however many hours we've been talking now, when we talked about a degree I got in business that I didn't learn anything in. Nothing. If I look back and I had to talk to you about what I really learned, there's probably some embedded things in there, but I didn't learn anything. I went to work for Best Buy and got thrown into retail business, and that's where I learned the most of the things. And I'm like, well, that makes sense, and that makes sense. And then I went to paramedic school, and I am almost sure out of 2 years of learning to be a paramedic, they could absolutely break that program down to 3 months of education and a year and a half of hands-on training. We had to ride so much in an ambulance and do all this stuff. Hands-on is where you're going to get it. Which I'm glad to see, going through all their stuff and learning more about them again. And this is where my education came in. I didn't know much about them. To me, they were an online dog training school, an online dog grooming school. And we've already discovered my opinion about some of these people who go out and train all these stuff. And I'm sure they help people, but in the end, it's the practical application of everything that comes down. And we do stuff. If you look at our whiteboard out here right now, there's the 4 quadrants that are drawn on it. And we'll talk about them and give examples when we do, or is that punishment? Is that not? Is that
That's actually that's how we started our podcast, was because we'd go out and do like a group class at like a field or a park somewhere, and we'd be like heading home to our separate homes, and we'd stop in the parking lot talking about, oh yeah, well, I was doing this, and we're talking about, oh well, that's operant, or that's positive, or that's negative, or whatever. And we'd be stuck in the parking lot for an hour just talking about these fundamental concepts. And I'm like, we need to just record this and share it with the world.
Yeah. And if you go back and you look on our YouTube channel, there's a video. It's like Petco had this thing where I don't know what they want to call it, a campaign or whatever. It was called Stop the Shock, where
I remember
we're going to take every shock collar out of our company because we care about the dogs so much. Well, that's what brought me to that. But if you go and you watch the video, there's a perfectly trained dog, which is one of our trainer's dog, or Sam's dogs, on an e-collar, laying down in front of this thing that says "Stop the Shock." Perfectly trained dog, amazing dog. And next to it, it says "Stop the Shock." But in that glass case, they got rid of all these shock collars, right? These things are so harmful, so bad to it. They had probably 3 or 4 wireless fence setups in there, because those were okay. Fido comes within 1 foot of the line and he gets zapped at 100. So that's cool. But us training a dog to give us a head tilt at 3 or 4 on an e-collar that goes up to 100 in a stable environment, I mean, that's priceless. I walk all my dogs in the field. My males, my 2 females don't get along, and they're mother and daughter. Go figure. But I can walk all of them in the field, and I got them on an e-collar technologies remote, and they start farting around or they start chewing at a mushroom, then a little tap and they come back. But what made me more so think about that is there's an error on there. It's an editing error. When we were talking about classical conditioning, it was correct, but when they edited it, they put it in the wrong spot. So it's just like, it bothers me. The video is great. Go back and watch it. it's on our YouTube stuff, but you'll probably catch that error too if you're really into it. But most people don't catch it. But
Well,
it
now I'm
bothers me
gonna
every
have
time.
to
But
watch it.
yeah, it's a good video.
That
It's a
is the
really
best
good
way to
video.
get views. Is be like, I bet you can't find this error. I'm like,
Yeah,
challenge accepted. I am on.
yeah, yeah. But then Petco caught wind of that, and we actually got a letter from Petco, the no trespass letter that came from them. So
Oh,
I loved it.
wow.
I'm glad you laughed so much about you. I'm gonna frame it because it's awesome. It's
Yes.
like you actually spent money to send me this letter, and you're ever gonna one. I don't really go in there anyways, but you're ever gonna know it's me. Like, what are you
Wow.
gonna? What do you? Your legal department in San Diego sent me a letter, and here I am in Henderson, North Carolina, and you're gonna find me.
Hmm.
So it's pretty funny.
I love it. Cool, man. That's awesome. Okay, so before we start to wrap this up, Kelly, is there any burning questions? I know you've been so quiet. You just festering all of this information you want to get from Scott. So what do you got?
It's
I
it's
don't
dark
really
there in
have
Texas.
any. I'm sorry.
It's dark there in Texas. I said.
Oh yeah, it's like 7 o'clock here. It's starting to get dark. Um, but no, I don't really have any questions right now. I was just kind of like listening. So
Sure, I give her credit. She was like a sponge there. She was just, there wasn't any time she was like dozing off or anything. So that's good.
Don't worry, she is a massive dog training nerd. Otherwise, she would not have made it with me. So, all right.
I wasn't that way. It was all about, with me, it was about the hard work and the challenges. And I was, so, initially, like a lot of people, I wanted to be a cop and be a canine handler from, I had a shepherd growing up, and then, they brought the dogs in kindergarten, and I've loved it since then. New York is a really tough market because all the pensions are good and it's 20 and out and all that stuff. So you take a test and 1,000 people are applying for 10 jobs, and,
Mhm.
they give things like veterans credits and credit for living in the municipality where it's from or the city. And you could score 94, 93, 95, and you wouldn't even get an interview. So I was bound and determined that I was going to be a canine handler, and I would do it in the private sector. Then if you're not going to give me a chance to do it for a pension, then I'm going to do it. And I'm going to make you call me for help, which is what NYPD did a lot of times because they didn't have a dog available. So they would call us off of where we were at, and we would search packages and stuff, which is how we found the one pressure cooker.
Wow.
Yeah, we did that, not an NYPD dog. So you turned me down for a job, but you still called me for help. And that'll be a highlight of my life forever
I
because
think
you put the hard work in.
I'll probably be reaching out to you to learn more about the contracting side of things, but that's going to be for another conversation.
Yeah, no, I
We're
want to do it. I want to get more into it. We're fully
yeah,
licensed here in North Carolina
nice.
in canine services, private patrol services, and armed guard services. So we talked so much we didn't even get into a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I said, we have 2 response vehicles, drones, and four working dogs.
Mhm.
And we can,
thankfully, our listeners are primarily pet dog owners, so I feel like some of that stuff would probably go over their heads, but I'm sure
yeah.
we piqued some interest, so hopefully they'll be looking more into it. So we're going to start to wrap things up. Now, I know we talked to you about you have a YouTube channel, you talk a lot about posting, so I want you to go ahead and share all of your socials, where people can get in contact with you, your website, everything. So where can people find you?
Everything is brand. Like we said, we took something that came to heart was something that the NFL always said when they started getting in trouble for stuff. It was a saying that was called "Protect the Shield." So we did it with the brand. Everything is branded Next Level Kennels. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all of them. I don't know. We're on so much stuff. I don't know. We try to post as much as we can. We've laxed off even ourselves lately, so we're going to get back on that. And then anybody can reach out to me. It's scott@nextlevelkennels.com. Any of the messengers go to me as well, go directly to me. And yeah, that's it. If you need anything from us, just definitely reach out.
Cool. Awesome. All right, so we're going to wrap this up. So this is the dog dialectic. We're going to be sharing this probably within the next couple days. And don't hesitate to reach out to Scott if you guys have any questions. If you're in the North Carolina area and you're interested in dog training or want to learn more about anything he's talked about, like you said, wide open, super nice guy, super responsive. So reach out, say hi, introduce yourself. And yeah. So same as always, we're the Dog Dialectic. Hit us up on our Spotify. We are going to post this to YouTube. On the YouTube, we are going to have the video available so you can see us and our beautiful faces. We don't normally post the video, but since we have you as our special guest, we're going to make an exception
Oh,
for this.
thanks.
Yeah.
Watch
All
my
right.
fidgeting in the chair.
Bro, me too. I cannot do it. You're going to hear my dogs barking in the background. It's all good. This has probably been the least unhinged of all of our episodes, so we'll have to step it up next time.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right.
Good deal.
Until next time, thank you again, Scott, and everyone.
Thanks.
Enjoy your day with your dog.